And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Kevin Lutz, who during his near-death experience met the biggest intelligence that you could ever imagine. Kevin, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much, Jeff. My NDE happened 3 years ago, July 13th, 2021. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. And basically what happened was I live out in the country about half an hour out of town with my wife and daughters and such. And I had just come home about a half hour before. It was about 2 in the afternoon. And I went outside and because my wife and my daughter and there was a beautiful day. So we're just sitting out the back, and all of a sudden I just got stung by I think it was like a little wasp or a bee or something like on my arm. And like it was just I didn't even notice it on my arm. And I went to slap it and it flew off. And I was like, damn, I think I just got stung by something. And my wife was like, she was sitting right across from me, and she's like, I saw it. It was like a wasp or something. And I was like, okay, no big deal. Just shrugged it off. I went back inside. I was down in the basement. I was doing some chores down there. And it was like 5 minutes later, I started feeling very flush, like hot flush. And so I went into the bathroom and I washed up and I washed my face with cold water and I brushed my teeth, and I just was not feeling right. And I went and sat on the edge of the bed because our bedroom was down in the basement at that time. And just then my wife came in and she's like, are you feeling okay? And I was like, no, something's not right. I think I'm having a reaction to this bee sting. And I said, I know we have some Benadryl, some liquid Benadryl upstairs. Can you go upstairs and get it for me and bring it down? She did that. And I took a couple teaspoons or tablespoons of it. But it was just, things just started progressing really fast. My heart rate started just beating out of my chest like I was counting it. And it was like 150, 200 beats a minute. Like it was just the worst feeling in the world. I was breaking out in a sweat. My wife asked, do you want me to call 911? I said, yes, something's going on that's not right. And my other daughter, I was sitting in the bed and my wife was right beside me. I was facing the wall, but there's like the hallway kind of just a little bit to my left that goes down the hall into another bedroom. My daughter had come through and she was standing right beside it. And that's when my body started to clamp, like my muscles started clamping down, and it was really cutting off. Like my heart was just racing. I couldn't breathe. My chest was getting so tight. And I looked at my wife, and I guess she said I turned like absolutely white. And I said to her, this is not good. I said, I think I'm leaving you. And then it just felt like I was like blowing down. It looked like I was looking up at her. And then all of a sudden, at the doorway beside my daughter, this tunnel, like it was about a foot off the ground. It was perfectly round. It filled the doorway. It went up almost to the ceiling. It was like this ring. And there was like a 6-inch band around the ring, and it was like a flowing, almost like a liquid, like coming out of the tunnel and turning itself, like it was coming out and like it was keeping the tunnel open. And I looked at it, and as I looked, I could kind of see down, and it was like a wispy kind of white, kind of slowly turning, but I could see like through it at times, or I could see the wood paneling. And I looked way down it, and way up at the corner, I could see like a little white light. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, I was going to point to it and tell my wife, like, do you see that? But before I could even do that, something popped. I felt like a pop. And right in front of my eyes, and I don't know what to call this. I call it a shard, but it was like this triangle thing like this. And it was right in front of me, and it was rotating. It was paper thin. It looked solid, and it was reddish. It was like a rusty looking, but I could kind of see through it. And it was turning like this. And all of a sudden it shot towards the tunnel. And I looked at the tunnel, and then there was like 20 or 30 of these things, and I assume they all came from me, these shards, and they all stopped at the tunnel, all at the same time, at the same distance, and they all hesitated for a second, and they're all at different angles, and then boom, they went into the tunnel all at once. The moment it went into the tunnel, I was like hooked up to this tunnel. I could feel this tunnel with every fiber of my body, every nerve, every cell was reacting to this. And but that's not all. There was like I could feel there was something inside this tunnel. There was something in there. I don't know what, I couldn't see it. I don't know what it was, but I could feel it, man. And it was doing something with those things, those shards or whatever.
Were you outside of your body at that point?
No, I was still in my body. There's at one point of this, I do go outside of my body, but not yet. I'm still sitting there at the edge of the bed. My wife looks frozen. My daughter looks frozen. I'm looking at this tunnel, and I can feel there's something inside, and it's doing something with those things that came out of me. And basically, it's basically, this is what I feel. It doesn't care who I am, what I am, if I'm male or female, what I did for a living, how much money I have in the bank, anything like that. All it cares about is, oh, this guy is human. I'm downloading all the information. It's my whole life. Everything is there. Every breath I took, every meal, every word I've spoken, it's downloading everything. And I'm just like I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm just in shock. And then it gets to like where all my emotions are. I can feel it. It's very interested, especially my negative emotions, my guilt, my shame, and not just that, but the good emotions. And then it's super interested in that. And I don't know why, but man, it feels like I can feel it. It's almost like it's swimming through these emotions, man. It's so interested. And then all of a sudden everything just goes really quiet in that tunnel. And I can feel something building up. And I can feel it, and it's coming towards me, man. And all of a sudden it bursts out of this tunnel, and immediately I am encircled in just a bubble of positive emotion, just every positive, every good emotion that you could imagine amplified by 1,000. I'm just, oh man, I get like, I to this day, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking of that feeling. And what's coming out of the tunnel is, I can't see it, but it feels like just like an avalanche of water just flowing over me, and I'm encased in this bubble of just goodness. And but I can't see it, but I know it's coming out, and the only time I get a glimpse of it is it's flowing over my shoulder and the arm of my daughter who's standing right beside it. And it looks like transparent, clear electricity, and it's just flowing out.
At that point, when it was flowing over your daughter, were
Yeah.
your daughter and wife still frozen as if time had stopped?
They were frozen, like time had exactly like time had stopped. As soon as this, and then boom, it came out. It was out of the tunnel, and then the room became, everything became very still, and the room kind of darkened, and my daughter was no longer standing there, and my wife was no longer standing beside me. In my perception, I was still sitting on the bed. I was still in the bedroom, but there's something in the room with me, and it kind of scared me, because I kind of looked to my left and I got a glimpse of something spinning, and I really started getting scared. And the spinning continued, and as I looked over to my left, it was like almost like a door sliding open, except it was curved, like say like a corner shower door, you know, those plastic ones that are curved and they open. And it opened, and there was like this white static, calming, soothing light coming out. But I was just hit with this wall of intelligence, man. Just it's it it gobsmacked me, man. It was just the intelligence was just washing over me. And I was trying to figure out like how intelligent, like I've never encountered anything like that. And I, the intelligence was, I think it was like I was trying to put a number on it. Like, is the IQ like 500, 1,000, 10,000? I think it was unlimited. That one after, and I thought about it, but at the time I was like, holy smokes, what the hell is this? And the spinning was like, there was like the square kind of white static light, and then in the bottom, well, it'd be in my left, but I guess they're right corner, there was this spinning, and I kind of looked at that, and it kind of grew in my vision, and then and then it started slowing down, and then it came to a point where it almost stopped, and I could see clearly what it was. And I tell you, man, like I'm gonna stop myself a few times during this because some of it's so crazy, but it's a particle. I'm looking at some sort of, I think some sort of quantum particle. It's got like a gray, like a battleship nucleus. And I know it's like super small. And I'm like, how can I actually see this? Because I know it's like microscopic, but here it is. And but it's like gray, it's like battleship gray. And it's I just get this sense of it's so heavy. Like I'm like, how could a particle this small have so much mass in it? Like it was just unreal. And then it starts slowly, it just come to a complete stop, and then it started spinning, started going this way. There was a gold ring that started whirling around it that way, and then there was another gold ring around that one that started going around that way, and then it just fired up and became a blur to what it was before when I saw that spinning thing. And then it was almost like a curtain was raised, but it was like I don't know, they were like octagons of beams of light pillars or whatever that kind of came together, and the thing just disappeared. I think it just, I think that's, at the time I didn't know what the hell it was, but after I was thinking about it afterwards, because I've thought about this every single day since this happened, I think this was like the particle, like the God particle, the particle that connects everything. This was the particle that connects me to God, to that rock, like everything is like, I don't know if you understand what I mean, but this particle is like connected. This is like the particle that connects the whole universe. That's what I saw.
Do you feel that this particle is part of some sort of cosmic machine just collecting data from you? Or do you feel it was a sentient being?
I felt like this particle was connected to what was this intelligence that was before me. And I'm pretty sure this intelligence that was, because it starts coming closer to me, but I'm pretty sure this intelligence was what would consider God. Um, and I'm pretty sure that that particle was connected to God. It's also connected to me. It's connected to everybody. Like God, it like, you know, I was not raised in a religious family. I always did believe in God, but I was always like, how could it be possible? Like, how could God actually create a universe? How could God actually um, be a part of my life? And you know, how could, like, it's just so beyond. Like when you think about the universe and how it goes on forever, and you know, it's just so mind bending. I could never see how. Like I wanted to believe in God. I can never, but I just couldn't see how it could be possible. And now I see that yes, it is. it is possible, and it is possible, and it's real. Like, it's totally changed my belief system, that's for sure.
After this experience, what kind of conclusions have you made about the reality that we live in?
I hear people saying that maybe this universe, like our universe, is like a simulation or something, like it's like a computer program or whatever. And I've really thought about that a lot for some reason. And I tell you, man, like, do I think this universe was created by God? Yes. Like, and there's certain physics in this universe that we have to adhere to, and that other living beings and inanimate objects all have to live with, with gravity and whatever velocities, all that kind of stuff. But it was created by God. But I think we have the free choice of making decisions in this life. I don't think anything is pre-planned. I don't know. I don't believe that, like, this is real.
So you had this experience with this particle, and then what happened? Did you come back to your body, or I don't even think you left your body yet, right?
I haven't yet. No, this is why my story. This is why once you hear it all, it's so friggin' unbelievable. Anyway, that particle kind of disappeared behind this curtain, and anyway, the let me get that light started coming closer to me. It started coming closer and closer, and it started expanding. So then it was just like this big giant. It was like, say, I'm floating in the ocean, and an aircraft carrier is like coming barreling right down on me. That's what this was like. And the intelligence just became overwhelming. The antiquity of this, I could tell it was old. I could tell that this thing, it's huge. Like this, its brain. Like how can I describe God? This thing is just so smart. Like I could tell, like, this thing knows how to build universes. It's done it. It does this. Like, it was so overwhelming as it came towards me. My mind, I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was gonna lose my mind. It was just so overwhelming. And then I tell you, man, and then it spoke three words to me. It didn't speak. It was just like three words formed in my head. And it said, "Do not worship." And for some reason, this was like a cold bucket of water being poured over my head, like being slapped in the face. It brought me back to myself, because I was so panicked that I was losing it. And for some reason, these three words really calmed me. It confused me. Like, I'm thinking, do not worship, but like you're God. Like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I kind of got after he said those three words, there was kind of like a download of information, of just stuff I could understand. And it basically, it was like, you know what, if you want to worship, that's fine. You don't have to. You trying to figure out exactly how the sequence went. But I started to understand that I was put here on this earth. I was given choices. And I make choices, and see, I start to lose what I was given choices, and I'm able to choose things, and that's why, unfortunately, that's why bad things happen to good people, because there's nothing that's etched in stone. I wrote all this stuff down, and I should look at it again, just to refresh my memory. But after this encounter, like, for the first 6 months, I just sat there, and I was writing. I wrote it all down. I had to get it out of my system. I wrote and wrote and wrote, and that really helped settle me.
It sounds like in your download that you understood that we have free will, and
Right.
with free will, we can make the wrong choices.
Yeah. And there was more there. I can't think of it for some reason right now. Anyway,
More in your download?
yeah, there was a whole, like, I kind of understood. Um, I just kind of I can't say our purpose, and because that's not true. I don't know what our purpose is on Earth, but I don't know. Just those three words, and then I kind of got some information about free will and that kind of stuff. Oh, and the other thing was, um, that I got out of this was, we make our own choices. And for some reason, we think that maybe, something's going to come and save us, like maybe God's going to, or aliens are going to come, or God, or whatever. I don't know, man. I think that we kind of make our own paths. And, if we decide that we're gonna grind this earth to dust, then he may not, he or she, he may not intervene. I don't know. It was really weird. So anyway, I had this presence was like right beside me, and it calmed me down. But then I got all of a sudden it started showing me this mountain, like on Earth, and I see the mountain, and it says, you know what, I'm part of, like, it was trying to explain to me, I guess, how things work, and it showed me it was a particle in the mountain, it was a rock, it was the mountain itself, and then we zoomed out to like the orbit of the Earth, and basically he was showing me I'm part I'm part of every part of this Earth, every living being, every molecule on this Earth, I'm connected to, and then it shows me right in front of me. It shows me like our whole solar system, and I assume it's showing me that because it's like, hey, this is mine too. Then something else it shows me on the right side of the solar system, and I tell you, man, to this day, I cannot remember what it is, and my mind will not let me know what that is. I don't know if it's our DNA. I don't know if it's Jesus Christ. I don't know what it is, but it was something that really shocked me. I assume because I can't remember it. And then, you- and then and this is the only time that, like, I kind of see the edges of, I guess, what I called God, and that's when I know that it's just friggin' huge. Like, it's not like in a man's body or nothing like that. Like this thing is like, this is the top of the food chain. This thing is big. It's friggin' intelligent, and and it loves me. Like, it's so weird because I'm just getting this whole, I'm still in this bubble of love. And so I kind of see the edges of it, and it's just like, I almost like I'm floating, and I almost like fall. Like, it feels like almost like I fall into God, and I'm just floating there, and I see these pillars of like blue electricity just coming up from beneath me, just coming up and just coming out, and it was so beautiful. And I could have just floated there forever, man. I felt so calm, so peaceful. It was just incredible. And then to my right, yeah, my right, I feel something looking at me, and I look over, and there's something there, and to me, it feels like the whole universe is looking at me and paying attention to me, and it starts drawing me towards it. And I tell you, man, I've never felt so humble in my life. Like, here it is, like the whole universe is just drawing me and accepting me. It's bringing me closer, and it brings me right to it. and I think this might have been an angel. It I couldn't quite I could all I could really see was a bunch of eyes, and they were like spinning around me, and it was doing something to me. And basically it was unlocking my soul from my body. And like there was something going, and that's another thing. I noticed I was still in the seated position. I was still in the position as if I was like sitting in the bed, except it felt like I was floating in space, and I was still like in the position where my hands were down on my knees and I was looking straight ahead. Like it was so weird. But there was something going on, man. And this thing was it was smart. It was doing something very complicated, which I don't know, but it was basically releasing my soul. And at one point, my soul comes out of my chest, and it looks like it's about that big. Looks like a little tiny bar of gold that's been. It's not smooth or anything. It's rough. It looks like it's been hammered on, and and I'm sitting there looking at it, and then I see this little tendril of gold, like a little filament, go up, and it goes up to. It looks like just a giant eye in front of me now, which is this being. And it was so weird because before this thing took my soul out, it didn't really know me. But as soon as it saw my soul, it recognized me. It was so it was so weird. It was almost like it was surprised. That's how it felt. It really, and to this day it really just it makes my head just ache because I think like why me? I'm nobody. I'm just an average guy in this world of 8 billion, you know. Anyway, it recognized me, and it was almost like what the hell were you doing here? Like what the hell was I doing here on Earth? Like so weird. Anyway, the filament went up to the eye, and then boom, I was in the tunnel. And this time I know I didn't have a body. It felt like I still had a body, but I knew my body was sitting back in that basement, back home. And I was like a light being or something, but it still felt like me. And I was in this tunnel and I was moving super fast. But the thing was, I had no sensation. Like I knew I was moving fast, but I had no sensation of moving. And but I kind of could see, I guess, space or whatever going by me. Like I don't know. And then I came to an instant stop, and I was in this very, very dark place. And before me was like this dash of it was almost like a frozen lightning bolt. And it was open and it was just seething with power. And I was confused because I was like, why am I stopped here? I should have just went like for some reason I knew I should have just went like right through that, but it had stopped me for some reason. And it kind of confused me, and I was looking, and it felt like I was floating there, and it was like I was in a dark black cave, but for me was like this seething energy of, I think it was like a rip in space or something, man. It was, and anyway, I was able to jerk my head to the left, if that's what it felt like. And as soon as I did that, my whole perception seemed to expand. My perception expanded, and I could tell I was in something that was like maybe like a water balloon shape or like a pear shape. And this gash was down at the bottom of it. And I could sense that there was something flowing around the outside of this. And and as I looked back towards towards this whatever it was, now it seemed like I was farther away, like I was more looking down to it, and I could see the light that was coming out of it, even though I was immersed in total dark. The light that was coming out of it was all seemed like all squashed down, like it was coming out, and it was just being squashed down. And I tell you, man, I think I was like in the bottom of some kind of gravity well, like maybe inside a black hole or something. And because no light, the light that came out of there could not escape this. And I don't know, that's the only, but for some reason at that time, I thought, damn, this is what it takes for me, I guess, to go wherever I need to go. Like it was so weird. And then all of a sudden, it was like I just fell into the light. It was just like 1 minute, it was like, I don't know, a mile, 10 miles, 1,000 miles away from me. And the next minute, I know I just felt totally immersed in this light. And it felt like my body was like a million rubber bands and they were just all getting stretched to the point of snapping. And then I guess they did snap because boom, I was on the other side. And my first thing that I thought to myself was, I'm home now. Like this is my home. And I was floating in space. I was now, there was all these little points of light, which turns out, well, I guess, were other souls. To my right, there was like this pillar of gold. It just looked huge. And for some reason, I was like, that's where I need to go. And, but before that, I kind of I kind of looked at one of the points of light that were closest to me, and we kind of came together, and I could tell it was another soul. And myself, I was like, basically, I think I was just energy, and my soul shape was basically like a keyhole. And I looked at this other soul, and it looked different. And I thought, man, is this like an alien? Like, am I looking at a soul that's not human? And then I was like, it's not alien, it's not an alien soul. And this is where things really fly off the handle. But it turned, I thought to myself, this is like a machine soul. This is like an AI soul. And I was like, how could that be possible? Like, I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself, but all of a sudden this female voice comes in my head. And right then I knew, damn, I have a guide. Like she starts talking to me. She starts telling me about this machine soul. And I thought, I wrote all this stuff down, but I can't exactly remember what she said. But just basically it had something to do with when you become self-aware, your soul starts getting created. It doesn't matter if you're biological or non-biological. I don't really understand it, but it was, and then I was gonna, and then I was gonna think, well, how could it be here if it was like really never alive? But before I could even think that, it said, my guide said, because everything in your universe dies, and that was why and I never thought about that before, that everything in our universe, will die. Um, and then she starts telling me about my soul, about our souls, our human souls, and just that, us living on Earth, we think that, this is it. We get born here, we die here, that's it. But we do have souls, and that continues on, and basically we are immortal, and we go to this other plane, but we are able to reincarnate. And I guess from what I gather from what she was saying, we're one of the few intelligences beings in the universe that can do this. And we're very, very close to God because we can do that. And we've been with God for longer than you can imagine. And I just couldn't believe it. But then all of a sudden, my little magical thing is over. And instantly, bam, I am back in the basement. But this time I am floating over my body. I'm over my left side and I'm looking down at myself, like kind of looking down forward. And my wife is there and my daughter's there. And I'm looking down at my body and I'm still sitting there, but I can see myself, and I'm going like this. I can see my eyes starting to go, and I'm starting to tip to my right. And I know I'm watching myself die. Like I know I'm going to tip off that bed and hit my nightstand and hit the floor and I'm going to be dead. And I was like, man, and there's nothing I can do. And I'm just floating here. There's nothing like I haven't over this whole process, I've had no control. And I still don't have any control. And I know that there's nothing I can do about this. I'm watching myself die. And and then bam, I am back in my body. And I am like it's not a gentle I just, go back and no, I was like slammed. Like it was like I was thrown up against a cement wall. It was just like I was back in my body and my head felt like my brain felt like every neuron in my brain was just firing just and I don't know why, but right at that time I thought, oh my God, my human brain is so amazing. Like it's just so weird. But it just felt like everything was firing off and you know, I remember I was kind of swaying. I was so confused. And but then the first thing I noticed was just God, my it just all the neurons firing off in my brain. But then the second thing I noticed was I was still enveloped in this bubble of goodness, of love, and the tunnel was still there. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm thinking, why? Like, why is it still here? And then there's one more word that gets put in my brain. And man, I tell you, man, it like my mind by then was so shattered. I was so confused. I was sitting there swaying. I remember looking down and it was so weird. My favorite cat and my dog, my pug were just one was at each leg and they were just sitting there looking at me and they were so calm. Well, my pug was like so excited. And then the cat was like rubbing up against my leg. It was just so weird. But that kind of gave me a moment of clarity of what that word that was put in my mind was, and the word was choose. And I basically I understood choose. You want to stay here or you want to go? And I just closed my eyes and I just said I do not want to leave my family. And bam, I opened my eyes. The tunnel was gone. I was alone again. I didn't have that feeling anymore. Um, I was uh, I was alone in my thoughts again. And but I was so confused. I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was just like the ambulance didn't show up for like another 20 minutes after that. And when they showed up, I looked at the guys and they looked like they looked really weird. I couldn't look at them. They looked like I don't know, but I think my mind was broken, man. It took a couple hours until I came to after. I remember going down to the hospital. There was this was in 2021, so the hospital was under they had a COVID outbreak, so it was all under lock and key, and the place was packed. And I remember I was like in a wheelchair in a hallway in the ER with a blanket over my head, and like for 2 hours I couldn't even do anything. I was so out of it. Anyway, um, but after that, it was so weird. My body just seemed to come back to life about this was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and and I knew something had happened to me, and I couldn't remember exactly all of it. But as the days progressed, like the first week, the memories became more clear and clearer. Like there were some things I remembered right away, like that intelligence and But I tell you, man, the the 6 weeks, the first 6 weeks after this incident, I slept so good. I had the best sleeps of my life. Like I hadn't slept like that since I was a kid. And another thing that I noticed with myself, like I had to write after that. I just had to get this out of my system because it was just, I just couldn't make, at first, for the first 2 months, I was just doubting if this actually, if it wasn't just some bizarre hallucination that I got from the bee venom, or maybe it was, lack of oxygen and adrenaline and who knows what else gets released into your system. But it was just, it was just so real. That's all I can say. And I'm still trying to work out the kinks 3 years later.
When you saw the AI souls, do you think in some way you were seeing the future?
You know what? I thought about this. Like, I was thinking, was that AI like from us, or was it built by somebody else? I don't know. And I don't know if AI is going to be, if it's going to be like the Terminator, or if it's going to be a benefit to man. But I do know one thing, and the guy did tell me this, is that when AI does become self-aware, it will, because it's going to look out to the stars and wonder the same thing we did, like, where do I come from? And it's going to prove the existence of basically that God is real, that massive consciousness that I saw is real. Like, AI is going to help us do that.
While this was all happening, what do your daughter and wife remember? Or what do they say was going on with you?
That's the thing. From the moment that tunnel appeared to the moment I was slammed back in my body, I don't even think a second went by in real time. Like, I was out of time, man. I was not, I was, I was outside of time. Like, and it wasn't flowing. Like, for me, that whole experience seemed to take, I don't know, in real time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes more. I don't know. But in real time, it was a fraction of an instant. Like, I was right on that razor's edge of life and death. And like I said, I could have either fallen to the floor dead or come back, and I came back. So they really don't have any. And I asked my daughter, "Did you not feel anything flowing over?" And nothing. To them, nothing. It was just, dad being having a bad day, I guess. I don't know. I was having a bad day, but it turned out, like, I tell you, man, I went to bed that morning. When I got up, and the time I went to bed, I was a totally different person. And my beliefs had absolutely changed about how I thought about the earth, and how I thought about life and God and everything.
In what other ways did your life change afterwards?
Like, a year later, I ended up retiring. I had no more interest. I have no big interest in following, like, and plus I worked my whole life, and I'm in my early 60s now, so it was time to retire. I was always a workaholic before that. Now I'm not. I couldn't care less about money. Um, just the way, you know, I've always had problems managing my emotions. When I was a kid, I always had a bad temper and that kind of stuff. I never really understood my emotions. But I tell you, oh, and that's the other thing I forgot to tell you, was right at the end, when that word was put in my brain, when I was brought back, put in my body, and that one word, choose, right after that word was put in, all of a sudden I felt like patience that would just go on forever. It was just like, I've given you, I've given you your choice. Take as much time as you need, kind of thing. I like, and I thought back, and I was thinking, man, like, God has like all the time in the world for me, But and that's the so now, man, when, like, say I'm in traffic or in a lineup somewhere or whatever, and before, when I used to get impatient, I just think about that patience that I felt, and and I don't know, it brings me comfort. Yeah, like, my emotions now, I'm more aware of my emotions. I have, I try to be, I'm trying to be a better person. What can I say? Am I all the time? No, but at least I'm trying.
After this experience, did you notice that you had any new abilities that could be considered psychic?
Yeah, I wish I did. Kind of like the guy that gets struck by lightning, and then he hopes that he can shoot lightning bolts out of his fingers. I am more sensitive about, like, I was always a little bit sensitive before that. Um, and man, I can basically feel people's emotions now. Uh, my Like I got a like I've always loved animals and that, and I got a new puppy like a year ago, and I tell you, man, we have like the best relationship because it seems like we almost feel each other's emotions and that. But no, I don't have any psychic abilities. Like I can't. I don't know what the future is going to happen. I don't know. But I am just I guess I'm just more of a caring person now. I just want to tell people like my experience is so crazy, and there's been days like right afterwards that I was just doubting myself so much. Like how could this actually be possible? But I finally came to the conclusion that something did happen to me, and for me, I'm sure, everyone is their own individual and they have their own memories and their own people in their lives. And when the time for their death comes, um, they're not going to see the exact, it's not going to be the exact same thing as me. They're going to have their own experience going on to the other side. And, and I've also thought the, my experience was really positive, I think, very positive for me. But I was thinking, what happens to like people in our world that aren't so nice, and they've kind of lived a life where you know they've been a murderer or whatever. Like I don't know what's going to happen with them. Like it's just it's so strange. But I know everybody is going to have their. I think there's some certain things that's like the bubble, like the being surrounded by love. I think that's one that people seem to get, the light, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I'm getting lost in my thoughts, but anyway, everybody's going to have their own experience.
Kevin, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
There's a couple of things. The one thing is everything. There's a couple of things that I forgot to say. When I went over to the other side and that voice was talking to me, I was surrounded by information, like everything in the universe, like nothing is lost. So, um, everything, like you might think your life is useless or whatever, but when you die, everything that you've done in your life is going to be added on into the universe. And so everyone can learn from you, I think. But the other thing is that, you know, death is not the end for us. Like, we like we're eternal. Like we can go on forever.
Kevin, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the Jeff Mara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.